All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful and honestly most beautiful ideas in all of science: evolution. And this isn't just some dusty old theory about the distant past. It's the living, breathing story of life itself. Is how a single, simple life form from over 3.5 billion years ago could possibly branch out into the millions of incredible species we see all around us today.
So how do we even begin to wrap our heads around a process this massive? Well, we're going to start small, with a little puzzle. Take a look at this. We've got a single species of mouse here. But, as you can see, some are dark brown, while others are almost totally white. Same exact species, but with wildly different looks. So what's going on here? How is that even possible? To solve this mystery, our story takes us to the sunny Gulf Coast of Florida. This is the home of a little mouse called Peromyscus polynotus, and it's right here, on these beaches and in these fields, that we're going to find the answer to our color puzzle. And what's so cool about this is the perfect match between a mouse's fur and its home. You see, on the mainland, where the soil is dark and rich, the mice are brown. It's perfect camouflage. But then you go just a few miles away to the coast with its pale white sand dunes, and the very same species of mouse is nearly pure white. Again, they blend in perfectly.
So what is driving this huge difference? The answer is pretty simple, actually: lunch. For predators like hawks and owls that are always scanning the ground from above, a mouse that stands out is a super easy meal. This constant threat, well, that's what biologists call an environmental pressure. Basically, to survive, you gotta blend in.
You know, this constant life or death pressure, it's the fuel for a powerful engine, the engine of adaptation. And that engine has a name you've probably heard before: natural selection. It's this brilliant, surprisingly simple mechanism that explains how living things become so perfectly suited to where they live.
Okay, so for natural selection to even work, you only need 3 things. First up, variation. In any group of mice, just by chance, some are born a little lighter or a little darker than others because of random differences in their genes. Second, these traits have to be heritable. The genes that control fur color get passed down from parents to their kids. And third, and this is the key, this all leads to differential survival and reproduction. I mean, put simply, if you're a mouse on a white sand beach, being born with lighter fur makes you harder to see. You're less likely to get eaten, more likely to grow up and have babies of your own, and you'll pass on those light fur genes to the next generation.
And this chart just shows you exactly what happens over time. In the very first generation of mice that made it to the beach, those genes for light fur were pretty rare. But with each new generation, the environment selected for those lighter mice. As you can see, fast forward 100 generations, and the genes for light fur are now everywhere in the beach population. The species has adapted. It's that simple and that powerful.
So here's the key takeaway, the thing you absolutely have to remember. The initial genetic differences, the variations, they are totally random. A mouse doesn't choose to have lighter fur, but the process that follows, the filtering of which mice get to survive and reproduce, that part is anything but random. The environment is systematically picking out the traits that work best.
But here's the thing, natural selection is huge, it's absolutely crucial, but it's not the whole story. It explains how populations adapt, but to get the big picture of life on Earth, we need to look at the other tools in evolution's complete toolkit.
The modern theory of evolution is actually made up of a bunch of big ideas that all fit together perfectly. We've just spent some time on natural selection, the engine of adaptation. Now let's zoom in on 2 other huge components that explain the incredible variety of life we see: speciation and common ancestry.
Let's talk speciation. Think about it this way. If evolution just meant one species slowly changing over time, we'd only have one super-evolved creature on Earth today, right? Speciation is the process where one lineage actually splits into 2 or more. It's how we get brand new, distinct species. It is the engine of biodiversity.
And when you think about speciation happening again and again, over and over, for billions of years, it leads to this even more mind-blown concept: common ancestry. This is the realization that all of life is connected. It's literally one gigantic branching family tree. You and a chimpanzee, you share a pretty recent common ancestor. But you and a fish, you also share a common ancestor, just way, way further back in time. And ultimately, all life on this planet traces back to a single origin.
Now, an idea that big, a single tree of life for everything, well, that makes some pretty big predictions, doesn't it? If it's true, we should be able to find the evidence. And one of the best places to look for proof of these ancient branches is in the fossil record.
So, let's ask a question that the theory should be able to answer. We know life started in the sea, and then, somehow, made its way onto land. So, what would the creature that made that incredible leap actually look like?
And this wasn't just a vague guess. Based on the theory of evolution, scientists made a super specific prediction. If four-legged land animals evolved from fish, then somewhere in freshwater rocks from about 375 million years ago, we ought to find a fossil of a creature that was part fish and part land dweller, a true transitional form.
And you know what? They went out and they found it. This is Tiktaalik. And just like they predicted, it had gills and scales, just like a fish, but it also had a flat, amphibian-style skull, a neck that can move on its own, and this is the amazing part, inside its fins were the very first primitive wrist and finger bones. It's a perfect snapshot of evolution caught in the act, literally remodeling a fish's fin into a leg.
Okay, so let's take a step back and put all these pieces together. Our mice, the mechanisms like natural selection, the fossils, and see the grand story of how all of life's incredible diversity was created.
The story starts way back, more than 3.5 billion years ago, with that single common ancestor. Over eons, through things like natural selection and speciation, this tree of life began to branch and grow. We see these pivotal moments, these new branches forming, captured in fossils like Tiktaalik. And this process, just continuing over billions of years, has resulted in the millions and millions of species we see today.
So to wrap it all up in a neat little package, natural selection is the engine that drives adaptation to a specific environment, just like we saw with our beach mice. Speciation is the process that creates whole new branches on the tree of life. And the principle of common ancestry explains the deep connections between all of those branches, which we can see confirmed by amazing fossils like Tiktaalik.
And really, it all comes back to this one single, absolutely mind-boggling number, 1. All the staggering variety of life, from the smallest bacteria to the biggest blue whales, from giant redwood trees to you and me, we are all part of a single, sprawling family tree that traces its roots all the way back to one common origin.
Which leaves us with one last, really cool thought. This story, it isn't over. Evolution isn't just something that happened in the past. It's happening right now, all around us, all the time. So maybe the biggest question isn't just about where we came from, but about where we're going. What will the next branch on the tree of life look like? What will life on Earth be like 1 million years from now?